Mikudo weme midoganjia wetowedoganjia. Well, you already know us. This is Ahosu Agelo Agbavi I, the paramount Ahosu, or king of the New African Vodun Monarchy of Ganlodo. The full name Ganlodo Hotome, which means, you know, the monarchy, not kingdom, the monarchy of Ganlodo. And we say monarchy versus kingdom because there have been and still can be women rulers, you know, and a woman is not going to be called a king. So we want to get right into this. You all know us, we know you. You know our videos are for a select few people anyway, so we're going to get right into this. And this is a very important concept we're going to talk about today called tite. And tite in the Fon and Yoruba language means initiation. Initiation. So fa tite, initiation to fa. Hevioso tite, initiation to the deity Hevioso. We want to talk about the concept of initiation on the actual going through what we call Agbasayi, the ceremony, but also to the initiation of self. Because a lot of people got this mixed up. As you all see online, you got people that are not initiated trying to speak on initiation, speak on divination when they don't know anything about it. So let's get right into this. When we speak of initiation, wisdom, of knowledge, of the probationary path, what do we mean? We use these words so glibly sometimes without due consideration of the meaning involved. Take, for instance, the first word mentioned, initiation. Many are the definitions and many are the explanations to be found as to its scope, the preparatory steps, the work to be done between initiations, and its results and effects. One thing before all else is apparent to those who know least about initiation, and that is that the magnitude of the subject is such that in order to deal with it adequately, the most adequate, one should be able to write from the viewpoint of an initiate, and not just one who is initiated, but one who is trained also. When this is not the case, anything that is said can even appear to be reasonable, logical, interesting, or suggestive, but not conclusive or necessarily true. And with the climate today, we can pretty much go towards the latter. It's pretty much going to be very skewed and not true. The word initiation, even in Latin, implies the making of a beginning or the entrance into something, right? Initiate. It posits in its widest sense, in the case we are studying, an entrance into an authoritative contract in the spiritual life or into a fresh stage in that life. So an authoritative stage, meaning you are authorized to do certain things. It is the first step and the succeeding steps upon the path of authorization to assist others. Divinations, healing, ceremonies, cleansings, invocations, kata on the path. Those on the path are called aliyeto. Literally, therefore, a person who has taken the first initiation is one who has taken the first step into the spiritual hierarchy. Having passed out of the definitely human hierarchy into the suprahuman. Having groped through the hall of ignorance during many lifetimes often, and having gone to school in the hall of learning, the beta, that is the true elevated or elevating human, versus the me, that is just the person who has not elevated, is not elevating. And we have things that are much lower than me, which are the jimak plum me, which are the badly born people. So basically we're saying this is the human now entering into the university or the hall of wisdom. When he or she has passed through that school, he will graduate, or she will graduate, with his degree as a master of compassion. This is usually what true initiation is supposed to do with us. It's supposed to chisel our degrees of passion, fine tune them, make them more expressible. It might be a benefit to us also if we study first the difference or the connection between knowledge, understanding or overstanding, and wisdom. Though in ordinary parlance they are frequently interchanged, as used technically they are dissimilar. Knowledge is the product of the living hall of learning. It might be termed the sum total of human discovery and experience, that which can be recognized by the five senses and be correlated, diagnosed, and defined by the use of the human intellect. It is that about which we feel mental certitude, or that which we can ascertain by the use of experiment. Things concretized that we can, quote unquote, put our hands on. It is the compendium of the arts and sciences. It concerns all that deal with the building and developing of the form side of things. Therefore, it concerns the material side of evolution, matter in the solar systems, in the planet, in the three worlds that we spoke about in, if you took the lessons of human evolution, and in the bodies of the person. Wisdom is the product of the hall of wisdom. It has to do with the development of the life within the form, from the progress of the spirit through those ever-changing vehicles, and with the expansions of consciousness that succeed each other from life to life. It deals with the life side of evolution. Since it deals with the essence of things and not with the things themselves per se, or the outer appearance, if you will, it is the intuitive apprehension of truth apart from the reasoning faculty, and the innate perception that can distinguish between the false and the true, between the real and the unreal. It is more than that. For it is also the growing capacity of the thinker to enter increasingly into the mind of Segbo, the creator. To realize that the true inwardness of the great pageant of the universe, to vision the objective, and to harmonize more and more with the higher meaning or higher measure. You know, there may be a measure without a particular meaning. It can't be defined. So we say measure versus a meaning, kind of the same thing. For our present purpose, which is to study somewhat the path of holiness and its various stages, it may be described as the realization of the spiritual monarchy within and the apprehension of the spiritual monarchy without in the universe. Perhaps it might be expressed as the rearing of the Holo, which is the temple of wisdom, upon the foundation of knowledge. Wisdom is the science of the spirit, just as knowledge is the science of matter. Knowledge is separative and objective, while wisdom is synthetic and subjective. Wisdom is synthetic and subjective. Knowledge divides. Wisdom unites. Knowledge differentiates, while wisdom blends. What then is meant by the term usually when we say understanding? When we say synthetic and subjective, we meant to refer to knowledge. The understanding may be defined as the faculty of the thinker in time to appropriate knowledge as the foundation for wisdom, that which enables them to adapt the things of form to the life of the spirit, and to take the flashes of inspiration that come to them from the hall of wisdom and link them to the facts of the hall of learning. Perhaps the whole idea might be expressed in this way. Wisdom concerns the oneself. Knowledge deals with the not self, while understanding is the point of view of the ego or thinker, or its relation between them. In the hall of ignorance, the form controls and the material side of things have the predominance. The person is there polarized in the personality of their lower self. In the hall of learning, the higher self strives to dominate that form until gradually a point of equilibrium is reached, where the person is controlled entirely by neither. Later, the ego controls more and more, until in the hall of wisdom it dominates in the three lower worlds, and in increasing degree the inherent divinity assumes the mastery. So this whole thing, we want you to slow the video down, go back, take notes, because we know that's a lot. But this whole thing is about mastering through the agent of divinity. So let's talk about aspects of initiation. Initiation, or the process of undergoing an expansion of consciousness, is part of the normal process of evolutionary development, viewed on a large scale and not from the standpoint of the individual. When viewed from the individual standpoint, it has come to be narrowed down to the moment where the evolving unit definitely apprehends that he or she has reached a point wherein a certain range of knowledge of a subjective nature from the physical plane point of view is his or hers. It is in the nature of that experience wherein a pupil in a school realizes suddenly that he or she has mastered a lesson and that the rationale of a subject and the method of procedure are theirs to use intelligibly. These moments of intelligent apprehension follow the evolving soul throughout its long pilgrimage. What has been misinterpreted somewhat at this stage of comprehension is the fact that at various periods, the emphasis is laid on different grades of expansion, and always the hierarchy endeavors to bring the people to the point where its units will have some idea of the next step to be taken. Each initiation marks the passing of the pupil in the hall of wisdom into a higher class even, marks the clearer shining forth of the Jomeh, the inner fire, and the transition from one point of polarization to another. It entails the realization of an increasing unity with life and the essential oneness of the self with other like selves. It results in a horizon that continuously enlarges until it includes the sphere of creation. It is a growing capacity to see and hear on all the planes. It is an increased consciousness of Segbo's plans for the world, or the worlds, and an increased ability to enter into those plans and to further them. It is the effort in the abstract mind to pass an examination. It is the honor class in the Ile Alagba, or in Yoruba, the master school of the divine elders, and is within the attainment of those souls whose salawa permits and whose efforts suffice to fulfill the aim. Initiation leads to the mount where vision can be had, a vision of the eternal now, where present, past, and future exist as one. A vision of the golden spirit that holds in unison all the many evolutions of our system: deity, human, animal, vegetable, mineral, elemental, and through which the one pulsating life can be clearly seen beating in regular rhythm. A vision of the Segbo thought form on the archetypal plane, or the archetypal plane. A vision that grows from initiation to initiation until it embraces the overarching Besu, or inherent laws of the universe. Initiation leads to the stream that, once entered, sweeps Betar, the elevating human, onward until it carries him or her to the feet of divinity. Initiation leads to the cave, within whose circumscribing walls the pairs of opposites are known, and the secrets of opposites, even good and evil, is revealed. It leads to the crossroads of Legba and Shu, and to that utter sacrifice which must transpire before perfect liberation is attained and the initiate stands free of all earth's fetters. It leads through the hall of wisdom and puts into a human's hands the key to all information, systematic and cosmic, in graduated sequence. It reveals the hidden mystery that lies at the heart of the solar system. It leads from one state of consciousness to another. Initiation involves ceremony, right? This is what we primarily know about, the physical ceremony. We know of it. It is this aspect that has been emphasized in the minds of most, perhaps a little to the exclusion of the higher significance. Primarily, it involves the capacity to see, to hear, and comprehend, and to synthesize and correlate knowledge. And the training that you get really teaches you to do this if you truly are in tune and there for the right reason. Hence, people without this training cannot speak on initiation. It does not necessarily involve the development of the psychic faculties, but it does entail the inner comprehension that sees the value underlying the form and recognizes the purpose of pervading circumstances. It is the capacity that senses the lesson to be learned from any given occurrence and event, and that by means of these comprehensions and recognitions affects an hourly, weekly, yearly growth and expansion. This process of gradual expansion, the result of the definite effort and strenuous right thinking and living of the aspirant, him or herself, and not of some occult teacher, leads to what one might term the door. Some people may call it even a crisis. The ceremony of initiation marks a point of attainment. It does not bring about attainment, as it so often is the misconception of this. It simply marks the recognition by the watching teachers of the people of a definite point of evolution reached by the people, and gives two things. And the watching teachers are our elevated ancestors, the deities, and the authorized teachers here on this earth. The Bokonos, the Ianifa, the Babalawo, the Hungan, the Afavi, the Nganga, the Dibia. So it gives two things. One, an expansion of consciousness that admits the personality into the wisdom attained by the ego, and in the higher initiations into the consciousness of the deities themselves. And two, a brief period of enlightenment wherein the initiate sees the portion of the path that lies ahead to be trodden, and wherein he or she shares consciously in the great plan of evolution. He or she shares ancient and sacred lineage. Lineage is very important. Of those trained before him or her. Lineage is very important. One cannot speak on initiation as an authority without having any kind of lineage, let alone not even having elders to train or teach them. After initiation, the work to be done consists largely in making that expansion of consciousness part of the equipment for the practical use of the personality, and in mastering that portion of the path that has yet to be traversed. Let's speak a little bit about what we call in Yoruba ejiwapo, being at one, and ejiwapo as a result of initiation. A point that we need to grasp is that each successive initiation is ideally designed to bring about a more complete unification of the personality and the ego, and on higher levels still with the Seibo itself. The whole evolution of the human spirit is a progressive ejiwapo, at-one-ment. In the at-one-ment between the ego and the personality lies hid the mystery of what we call, once again, ejiwapo in Yoruba. Ejiwapo it means at-oneness or two-ness. Two-ness meaning two of the same, on the same path. Being at one with another entity. One unification takes place at the moment of individualization, when man becomes a man, meaning in its truest sense is rooted in the original word for mind. So when man becomes a conscious rational entity in contradistinction to the animal nature. Ejiwapo, emotional, intuitional, spiritual, and divine, consists in conscious, continuous functioning. In all cases, it is preceded by burning through the medium of the inner fire and by the destruction through sacrifice of all that separates. The approach to ejiwapo unity is through destruction of the lower and of all that forms a barrier. So getting rid of the lower and getting rid of things that form barriers. The whole process is therefore for the purpose of making bad talk, the true human, consciously one. First, with herself and those in incarnation with her. Second, with his higher self and thus with all African selves of good character and who are spiritually evolving. Third, with his or her sekpoli, which is that higher being represented above the head. Thus, Betar becomes a conscious human being. So the man becomes Betar through the instrumentality of real initiation, which is the physical training and active initiation grouped with personal work. One or more of these are often absent, with many claiming to be quote-unquote authorities on Mawuyi traditions, Mawuyi being African. Let's keep that in mind. We'll say that again. Betar becomes a conscious human being through the instrumentality of real initiation, which is the physical training and act of initiation grouped with personal work. One or more of these are often missing, with many of these people claiming to be authorities on African tradition, the online armchair teachers who have never really even had divinations or any kind. They had no initiation to be speaking on none of this. Let's talk about a little bit about preparation for initiation. All of this is in the chiseling process, the preparation for initiation, the training. The probationary and training path precedes the path of initiation itself and marks that period in the life of Betar when he or she definitely sets him or herself out on the side of the forces of evolution and works at the building of his or her own character. He or she takes himself or herself in hand, cultivates the qualities that are lacking in disposition, seeks with diligence to bring their personality under control. They are building the causal body with deliberate intent. Now this is preparation for the actual physical initiation. Filling any gaps that may exist and seeking to make it a fit receptacle for the abode of Vodun, the tradition and the deities themselves. The analogy between the prenatal period in the history of the human being and that of development of the indwelling spirit is curiously interesting. We might look at it this way. The moment of conception corresponding to that of individualization. 9 months gestation corresponding to the wheel of life. First initiation corresponding to the birth hour, first initiation. The moment of conception is the embarkation. It is the awakening to the awareness of the command for initiation. The gestation is development and training. The birth is the physical act of initiated authority, meaning that now you're trained, now we, the watchers, the elders and whatnot, the deities have okayed it. We now send you through this last stage, authorizing you to go into the public and deal with the public's issues. Once again, these people talking about initiation have not even gotten to the point of character development, let alone an actual initiation. Many people who have gotten initiation, the physical act, have not gotten other things, as we mentioned earlier before. Usually one or more of these things are missing. Now these words are for the good of those who are starting this path and are a bit confused about the subject. This is for you all. In plain language, please be aware of listening to people who have never been initiated, who have not studied under elders, and most of their knowledge of African traditions come from books and the internet. Especially beware of those who have not been initiated trying to tell you about initiation. An engineer that has not studied medicine and taken the appropriate exams cannot tell you what it means to be a doctor. That is for the doctor to do. The same with African traditions and priesthood versus someone not initiated and does not even train trying to tell someone about the subject. More than likely they are making up something for self-aggrandizement or some type of delusional grandeur elevation in their head. And it's usually accompanied by something pretty sick. To know about initiation and divination, one must be initiated and trained to divine. We keep saying that, but we want people to understand this, especially if you're new. This is not a subject up for opinions. It is that simple. And one cannot, no matter how extant written information is, how much is out there, learn how to divine outside of direct physical and oral training from someone else who is initiated and trained. Beware of people telling you that they were initiated in a dream or received a title in a dream. That is not how things are done in Maui tradition. So that completes our initiation talk. We definitely welcome feedback, because we kind of figure people have questions. A lot of times they don't know how to formulate them. So off of this presentation, we created this presentation especially for you over the past day. We hope that you now can formulate more specific questions you want to ask about initiation, you want to know, and we can build an even bigger discussion. And that's your new me. And out.